So when he was in his 60s, which is late to begin, but still in his 60s, he started doing the right things. He started taking resveratrol, he started exercising, he started eating less meat and eating less often. Now he's 84, right? He was in my book. I think in my book he was 79 or 80. He's now 84, and he's still in perfect health. He still enjoys life like he did when he was 40. He likes to complain about his health, but he's actually in really good health. His latest complaint is that his vision is declining slightly, but he can still drive a car at night without glasses, so it's not so bad. But consider this, that my father is so healthy that he's now hanging out with 50-year-olds because that's how he feels. And his 85-year-old friends are mostly dead now. So that's, of course, tragic, but what I'm hoping is that my father serves as a beacon of hope for all of us, that most of us and our family members will be able to look forward to being healthy in our 80s, 90s, and beyond, and not worry about getting heart disease and cancer and diabetes. In my view, with today's technology, and certainly with tomorrow's technology, these diseases don't have to happen. We can prevent cancer now with blood tests and scanning. We can prevent diabetes with lifestyle and medicines and supplements. And heart disease, we have some really great drugs. So the major killers that killed my grandmother, and she died from cardiovascular disease, they don't have to happen like they did to previous generations. We, in our life, we can, if we have a little bit of luck, but mostly because of how we live, we can live into our 90s and perhaps beyond that without any diseases. So when I started writing my book, doctors viewed aging like something separate, like aging is not a disease, it's just something that happens and it's natural and therefore acceptable. So how many of you have been to a doctor and the doctor said, well, you're losing your eyesight, or you have an ache, or you have a pain, or your teeth are wearing out, or you're losing your hearing, but that's just normal aging? Well, I refuse to accept that. Normal does not mean that it's good. In fact, normal aging is not good. We want extraordinary aging. We want a slow aging. And so I think we should regard aging and diseases as the same thing. Now that's not just a definition, it's actually scientific. The science tells us that what's causing these diseases, for the most part, is aging itself. Diabetes, heart disease, even cancer has a major component, a major part of these diseases is the aging process. And interestingly, it's the same process that causes dementia and heart disease is happening at the cellular level for the same reason. And I think we've identified one of the main reasons we get old, and that's what I want to talk about now. Now, I started as this is a photo when I was 27, and I was working with Lenny Guarente at MIT in Boston, and we were, as part of a team, looking for genes that control aging in yeast cells. And I've got a picture I took of a yeast cell here. This is an old yeast cell. It's yellow because it's acidic, and it's big and slow and sterile, like what happens to us. But this microscopic yeast cell, we found that we could make it live longer by changing just one gene. The gene was called a sirtuin. And yeast have 5 sirtuin genes. We have 7 in our bodies. And they require NAD to work. And I think all of you know about NAD. But this is where the story began, in yeast cells. And then when I moved to Harvard, my lab tried to understand what is it about NAD and sirtuins that controls lifespan. And we discovered that the food that the yeast were eating and the temperature that the yeast were growing in affected their life and how long they lived by acting through NAD and sirtuins. So when the yeast cell was stressed, worried about dying, it made more NAD, and the sirtuins protected the cell from damage and protected what I refer to as the information in the cell. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But importantly, we could finally connect diet and the environment to health and longevity through a very simple genetic mechanism. And that was the big breakthrough in the early 2000s.